At the Gurston Championship rounds, there are often invited classes for single marks. At this round in July, we've got the Ferrari Owners Club here, with a tremendous turnout of very desirable Ferraris. I'm here with Richard Allen and Richard Pryor of the Ferrari Owners Club. Richard, tell us a little bit about the history of this championship.
Yeah, well, we were coming here in the mid-80s, only just a handful of us, and I think at that point we thought we ought to develop a club championship, and we got it going in 1987. And it's been flourishing ever since, to the extent that this year we've been getting more than 20 cars at most of the meetings. And primarily it's for what are mostly very standard road cars. The older cars, they're allowed to uprate the suspension and those sort of things, but the 355s and 360s are really standard cars. They may have a full harness in, but that's how it works. And we run a handicapping system called a performance equaliser percentage, because obviously a 308 is not going to be able to keep up with a 355. Mm-hmm. So a 355, has plus 2.25% applied to its times.
So you do that on a percentage basis rather than a seconds basis.
That's right, yeah. Mm-hmm. And at the end, you'll be surprised it brings the times up very close, and that's how we award the championship points. Mm-hmm. And as you can see, the championship this year, or the last 2 or 3 years, is sponsored by Pirelli. Prior to that, we had Ferrari UK before they were taken over by the Italians, and Castrol, and then in the early days it was BF Goodrich.
So a solidly backed championship with a good bunch of competitors.
Yes. And
Fantastic. And what sort of number of rounds do you do in a season?
Well, this year it's 15, but it's 16 last year, so typically 15 to 16 rounds.
Predominantly hill climbs?
Predominantly hills. We do Mara Sprint and we go to Kerber a couple of times,
Very good. So a flourishing championship. Yes. And Richard Pryor here was champion last year, I believe. Richard, what car were you driving?
It's just a 348 TS, very standard, road spec, and still on road tyres.
And how's your championship going this season?
Not so good this year. They've handicapped me with an extra 1% on my time for being the champion. But I'm still having a go and still trying to keep up with the top boys.
And the championship leader this year is?
At the moment, it's John Goodwin and Chris Butler. They're both tied on 115 points, so there's nothing to separate them.
Well guys, it's great to see these cars out. I know spectators really enjoy the variety and the spectacle of a Ferrari, and have a good afternoon, and we'll be watching out for you. Thank you.
Tony. It's a pleasure to be at Gurston again.
Let's take a look at some of these fabulous Ferraris in action. Smoking the tyres away from the start, Andrew Holman really opens up the 348 TB before easing the big Ferrari into the fast left-hander at Hollow. Despite a touch with the Armco barrier at Doon up in Scotland a few weeks ago, Andrew's still hanging on to joint third place in the Pirelli Ferrari Championship. Bounding over the curb at the bottom of the carousel, the 348 clips the left-hand curb as Andrew manhandles the car through the steep uphill complex. Full power out of Ashes gets the tail out, but he's hard on the right-hand pedal for the long climb up and over Burke's Rise. The finish line's in sight, and 38.83 will take 5th place in this 15-car class. Here's Richard Allen now with his 355. A former Ferrari record holder at Gurston, Richard has just seen his old mark blitzed by David Tomlin, who set the fastest ever Ferrari time here on his first of today's 2 competition runs at 37.03. It looks quick through Hollow, and leaving his braking as late as possible for carousel, Allen almost locks up but throws the car over the rumble strip before hauling it up through the hill's tight intersection and up over Deers Leap. Brushing the verge to get the widest possible entry line for the critical left-hander at Ashes, it's full bore up over the rise towards the finish. Allen's target is 37.03. And he's done it. 36.98 is another new record and Gurston's first ever sub 37 second climb by a Ferrari. So can David Tomlin get his record back from Allen? It's a good start from the man lying third equal in the championship alongside Andrew Holman. In fact, he looked as quick as Allen through hollow as once again the 355 just brushes the rumble strip. There's still nothing in it as Tomlin gets hard on the brakes and charges into the carousel complex. But the run looks maybe a shade tidier than Allen's, just that little bit smoother. The smooth runs are very often the fastest, and the Ferrari's certainly quick out of ashes, which could pay off on the run over the hill to the finish. It certainly does pay off. It's yet another Ferrari record, the third of the day, and by just 0.03 of a second. Now let's go back to Tony Wiltshire in the paddock.
As well as